Welcome back to Mahandis the Engineers podcast. This is Lawyer Newton, and today we have a very wonderful guest, a technical profession, a trained engineer. And so, Keziah, welcome to Mahandisi. It's very difficult to pronounce your other name. Probably we can begin from that point.
Hi, I'm Keziah Khalinditsa. That's how you pronounce my name. And I'm a renewable energy engineer. That's what I would describe myself as nowadays. Because, yes, I did agricultural engineering, but I did not pursue agricultural engineering. So for now, I like to introduce myself as a renewable energy expert. And I've been in that industry for about 6 years now.
Interesting that you've actually said you did something to do with agricultural engineering.
Yeah.
Our previous episode, we were having a conversation on the engineer's scale of fees,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the disciplines that was recognized by the board was an agricultural engineer. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember mentioning to one producer that um, where are these agricultural engineers? We have not met them.
We are
And
here. We transitioned into other things.
it's actually, yeah, interesting to know that that is your background. So you say you have 6+ years of experience.
Yes, in the renewable energy space.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So where did you school, like campus?
So I went to Jomo Kenyatta International University. I don't know why I've called it international. It's Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. That is JKUAT in Juja. And when I joined in my first year, I was called to do a course called Biomechanical and Processing Engineering. It was in the environmental sciences or environmental engineering courses in JQuat. And everyone always asks, what is this biomechanical and processing engineering? But in short, biomechanical and processing engineering is where you study about the mechanization or the mechanical bits of agriculture. So we are the people who were designing things to do with farm machinery, and I don't know how else to describe it, but mostly the mechanization bit of agriculture. So yeah,
Okay.
that's
Oh,
how I found myself there. And to be honest, I'll be very honest here that I didn't know what it is when I was applying.
mm-hmm.
So what happened is I was a very bright student in high school. Then something happened in KCPE. Not my plans. I was planning to get a straight A and go straight to do medicine. I remember I wanted to be a neurological surgeon. Is it called neurosurgeon? A neurosurgeon,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Whatever it is
But
just a John.
yeah, it happened, and I thank God that I didn't go that direction. But I really wanted to get straight A's and go to do medicine, become a neurosurgeon, and that didn't happen. In our year, it was the year that post-election violence happened, and
Ooh.
I don't know if it affected our grades or what happened, but we got grades, and then when we were going to get the certificates, or what were they called, the slips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those the preliminary one that you got first before you go for the certificate. So when I was going to get that and celebrate because I got a very good grade, it
Mm-hmm.
happened that I was one of those who are affected, and I was told, no, now you have a grade lower. So instead of an A minus, I happened to get a very strong B plus. I still insist on strong B plus. And I was so
Okay.
disappointed. I really cried. I really cried it out. Sometimes I remember that day and laugh at myself, like it doesn't really count so much. But when I got that grade, it meant that I wasn't able to get my medicine. So the next logical thing that a Kenyan would do is to look for the next thing that
High
can take
profile,
that
high
grade.
Yeah,
Exactly.
high profile course.
Yes. So what
Uh,
was the next thing? Engineering. So now you also have to go through the engineering. There are different engineering types. So you have to check which one will manage to take the grade. For example, in JKUAT, if you are to do electrical and electronics engineering, which is something that I wanted because I saw my dad do it, then I would need to get a pure A. Or if I was doing an A minus or B plus, I had to do it as a self-sponsored student, and I couldn't afford that. So I had to go lower, lower, lower until I got something that really matched my grade. And at that time, that department had not been in JKUAT for a long time, and they were looking for students. So I'm not trying to demean them and say that they were looking for lower grades, but at that time they really wanted students to come in and fill in the courses, and that's why they lowered their grade a little bit to manage to accommodate more people. Yeah, so I found myself in the Department of Biomechanical and I think Soil Engineering. That's what it was called at that time. I think they've changed the name right now. And I was there for 5 years. I stuck through it and I finished my 5 years.
nice, nice, nice. So you said your dad was somebody who did with electronics. Was he an engineer?
Yes, my dad was an engineer. He passed on in 2018. May he rest in peace. But he really affected the choices that we made as especially me and my sister because we were closer to him when we were younger, and we always wanted to be close to him. You see, when he opened the bonnet of the car and he's checking things in the car, you're always there with him. You want to see what he's doing. But he was an electronics engineer, sorry. And every time people in the village, when he retired and everyone came, was bringing their TVs, radios, and whatever, we would be there. So there was a corner specifically in the house that was full of those things. And every time you're trying to clean the house, you made sure that you're not touching anything there because if you touch one screw, then you've met someone TV. And we really enjoyed seeing how he was working them. Something broken is brought, and in a few minutes, the radio is back, and he would charge very good money. And yeah, I was inspired, especially by the money. So
Ah,
I love
interesting.
seeing him do that. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. You know, now those are engineers who are able to translate theory into practice. We are having we are having conversations now where employers are complaining of the graduates that the university is pumping up. People have passed, but they cannot get they cannot translate the theory into something that is useful for the economy. And yeah, anyway, discussion for another day. So let's proceed. So you are in what was the short name of this course?
Biomech.
Biomech. So wait, there's no agriculture in that word.
No, there's no agriculture in that word. In fact,
Okay.
when I was choosing, I didn't know it has anything to do with agriculture. So I learned about the agriculture bits when I got to JKUAT.
So you got in, and then now the course changes. Now you are. How did you handle the surprises, or you just went in blank
So,
and ready for everything?
first of all, I was a very naive girl. I was born and raised in Kakamega. Kakamega is a very good town, but I was raised in the village. I wasn't. When I tell people Kakamega, they think I was raised in town. I was raised in the village, somewhere very deep in the village, and I was very naive. Fortunately, my family really, my extended family, that is from my grandmother all the way, there are people who really value education. In fact, my grandmother wasn't given chance to go to higher education or even to finish primary school. So she always had this philosophy and said, all the women in this family must study and go to university and get the education that I was denied. That
Hmm.
was her minimum. That's she would not tolerate if, especially the grandchildren and ladies, don't go to university. So for me, that was a push. She always wanted to see me go to university. And getting a chance to get into university for me was the first tick. It was the first check. I was successful.
Mm.
Nimefika. So, so it
Okay.
didn't matter. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if I was going to university to do education, if I was going to university
Mm.
to study veterinary. I
Mm.
just wanted to make sure that I'm in university and I've made my
Mm-hmm.
grandma proud. So first, I wasn't I didn't care about what it was, but then I got in. I was ready for engineering. My dad always said, "Why is it that you really want to do engineering? There must be a reason. You can't just say you want to go and do engineering." From the way I have done engineering and the look of things, I would have done X and X and X course. Then I told him, "You let me go and experience it myself. Then I
Mm-hmm.
can decide if it's not something that I want to do." But then I joined the first few months or the first semester. Everything was fine. It was like a revision of what you've already done in high school. You know, the physics, the chemistry, and you're getting A's left, right, and center. And then you now get into the deep of it. So in campus, for my course, I don't know if it's a Kenyan thing, but agriculture generally hasn't been given a lot of, how do I say it? It's not given a lot of weight. People feel like it's not something that should be, it's not a fancy thing. When you're in campus,
Mm-hmm.
agriculture is not a fancy thing. So every
Mm-hmm.
time someone will try to bring up the agriculture, you insist, no, my course is biomechanical and processing engineering.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so yeah. So in campus, I would say the first few years, as much as I was naive and I didn't care and I was just happy to be in university, there was also this aspect of trying to prove yourself that the course you're doing is worth it. And there's something that doesn't add up. I don't know why in Kenya agriculture hasn't really taken off. Maybe it's because of us agricultural engineering getting out of the space and pursuing other things. But maybe we need to get down and find out why we are going to pursue other things instead of the agriculture that we did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that is a very big problem actually that we also seeing in the engineering fraternity because
Yeah.
now we are also seeing that engineers are transitioning into do other things, and part of
Mm,
what the board is trying to do is to make the welfare of engineers
yeah.
a top priority so that it is attractive.
Yeah.
Of course, for the agricultural bit, there are other systemic challenges that we might not be in a better place to discuss at this point. But important again that you've pointed out that aspect of yeah, there's that feeling that you people don't even deserve to talk to us about agriculture, and people want to
Mm,
demean you, and your course is not like hautoshi mboga yani, like
mm,
tutosha yani. But anyway,
yeah.
enough of that. So let's summarize this period that you were in school, and was there a point in your learning that you
Mm-hmm.
felt like this course is not worth it? Like I can't see I can't see a path that I can benefit from this course. Was there a point like that?
I'm trying to remember to see if there was any at any given time that I thought that for me, let me just take it back to when I was in is it third year or fourth year? I can't remember exactly when, but there used to be a program in our department where the chair of the department invited people who were his students who had made it and invited them back to speak to us. And mainly, they wanted us to know about the opportunities that are out here or to just understand how to approach the job market, how to get into industry, how do you plan, how do you set up goals, how do you do your CVs. And I think it's a very important arrangement that they had because it had a big impact on me and it just made me realize that, oh, it doesn't, I don't have to do electronics and electrical engineering and, mechatronics, which were the fancy
Mm.
engineering
Yeah, yeah,
courses
yeah.
in JKUAT.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who came back and was successful, and they were leading teams in processing factories, in also equipment manufacturing factories, like that is agricultural equipment manufacturing factories. They came back and spoke to us, and the people maybe in the soil and environmental, the one who took soil and environmental direction, were also doing very well in the NGO and humanitarian spaces. And they were coming back and driving big cars, dressed up very well. So it gave me the inspiration, and I stopped thinking about my course as the less fancy engineering course. And I started now concentrating to understand what is it that I'm supposed to do as an engineer in biomechanical and processing engineering. I've even enjoyed so many of the courses much later in the third year, fourth year, and fifth year. I've really enjoyed some of those courses. Some things I apply, some we don't, but I enjoyed now in the later years. I can't say there was any given point where I said that I regret having done that course. It, in one way or the other, it led to the steps that have brought me where I am right now. I don't think if I did anything else, I would be where I am, and I love it where I am. So I think I don't regret it. I know I don't regret it. It's leading to where I am right now. So yeah, I enjoyed it. If you
Yeah,
met my classmates, they would say a
uh,
different thing.
yeah, yeah. I'm also
but for
wondering.
yeah,
I'm
but
just wondering.
for
Mm.
me, it was those people who came that made a difference. I promise you, if they didn't come, I wouldn't see it that way. So one of them actually, I was those good students. When the talk is done, I run to the people who are talking and want to ask them questions. So I ran to one of them, and I just asked her a question. And I asked her, if you were to go back, would you do this course? And she said, yes, I would do it. And I would do it now with confidence without thinking that I should have done XYZ. So I just went to her and told her that. And sorry, she just told me that. And I changed my attitude completely about it. And it doesn't mean that I was enjoying everything. Engineering is tough, and some days you just you just want to miss classes.
Uh-huh.
Some
Okay.
days you miss classes. Some days you go to the library. Some days you do campus things. But yeah, in general, if I put it in general, I put in a lot of effort, and I enjoyed it.
Okay, okay, okay. I just wanted to know whether this uniformity in people imagining that at one point there's a curve actually that comes out, yeah, even as you speak the more engineers, so that at some point in their years when they were in school they just felt like this thing's not worth it. We just felt like giving up, but there was no clear path again to give up. When you look back and you imagine, I mean, go if you are to switch to something else, it is much difficult than for you even to finish up what had been left. And
And there's another thing too. There's another aspect to that, because there are people. We started as, I think we were 40 or something in class, but by the time we were graduating, we graduated 30 of us. Three people did not graduate, and seven people had dropped along the line. Some of them got better things to do. For example, some I know some who had passion for being pilots, and they got this. There's this program that was happening with Kenya Airways and South Africa, something. So people would leave and go to South Africa and become pilots. And right now they're really doing well. I don't know about the strike, but they're really doing well as pilots. Others just dropped out and became nothing. So maybe right now their life is not as good as you would want it to be. But for me, one thing, let me tell you, is this. I always remembered where I came from, And it was not a place where I would say I had many options. So I feel like other people had options, and they would tell the parent, you know what, this thing is not working for me. Please pay for me something else, or I'll quit, or I don't know, something. You just give your parent an ultimatum, and they change the courses for you. I don't think I had that flexibility or option. So for me, it was focus, finish what you're doing here, and then make the best out of it. Ukitoka huko nje. So I didn't
Eh,
have a chance to play around with it and say, this thing is hard. I was like, okay, when are we going to the library? Who's the best
mm,
person in this course? Can they help me? Yeah,
mm.
that's what I yeah.
Yeah, where I come from, people say that you have to look at your hands, and if
Mm,
all your fingers are not the same, then we are not
yeah.
all the same, and that should just indicate to you that because you are here, you this is your path. You have no alternative. You have just to
Yeah.
complete it,
Yeah.
and sufficient of that. So now, young engineer Keziah has graduated.
Mm-hmm.
You are officially an agricultural trainee engineer.
Yeah.
What did you do immediately after graduation?
Immediately after graduation, there was this movement at that time. I don't know if it's still there. Maybe it's because I left the space. I don't know. Something called online writing. And
Mm.
everyone was doing that thing. So I was like, there are people making money, and people tell you, I'm making 50,000. I'm making, and at that time, I think I felt like 50,000 was a lot. Oh, goodness.
Uh-huh.
So when someone tells you, I'm making 50,000, you're like, this is what I would also want to try as I look for work. But it didn't work for me, especially when I was being woken up at 3 a.m. to do some corrections. Some guy in America wants the corrections to be done immediately, and it wasn't working for me. So immediately after campus, I had this huge laptop that one of my uncles had given me to help finish my fifth year, because we were doing projects, and that mostly was research work. So I was using this laptop to do online writing, but because the money wasn't coming in, I would get maybe 10,000 shillings, 15,000 shillings, or even less sometimes. I
From where?
decided from the online writing. So
Oh,
you do the online writing, then when you are doing, it's basically doing bad work because you're doing assignments for people, and then you get paid.
you cannot no, you cannot say it is bad. It's bad work because
Mm,
you are being compensated for the time that you have spent in
that
trying
I've
to understand.
spent.
Yeah,
I'm
you.
thinking I'm thinking morally on the other side.
No,
Why
no,
would
no,
the
no,
student
no,
paying
no, no,
someone
no.
to do to
No, no,
work
no.
for them?
The student does
Yeah.
not have time. But
Mm,
if you look at it from the lens of the long term, as whether
yeah.
that helps humanity, then there
Yes.
could be a question on that.
Yeah.
But you
Could be a
cannot say
question.
it is bad. You cannot say it is
It
bad.
was
Bad is
nice.
not
It was
the
very nice.
bad is not the right is. Anyway, proceed. So you are
So
getting fifteen
yeah,
thousand.
and at this moment, the reason I started doing the online writing is because I had gone home. I graduated in 2013 December. Then I went home to stay with my parents as I look for a job. Then it just proved very difficult to look for a job while in the village. There's a lot of responsibility that was expected of me, doing things at home, not having internet, not having reliable power. There was not a chance for me to just sit down and start applying for jobs. And I must say, at that time, the online job application was just also starting, or most companies had not really adapted it, or the companies that I knew had not adapted it. So for us, tamaking or looking for a job was working with brown papers in industrial area, dropping them and hoping to be called for an interview. So I felt like when I'm in the rural area, I don't have access to these brown papers and industrial areas. So I moved to Nairobi. In Nairobi, I moved to my sister's hostel. She was a student at the University of Nairobi, and I was sneaking in. I don't know what if they were called the matrons, and they couldn't tell me from her. She's lighter skinned than I am, but the national IDs or the school IDs they were using were black and white. So they couldn't tell if it's me or her. So when she went to class, she would give me the student ID and I would use it to get back into the hostel in the evening. Then she had a way of maybe taking it through the window, then coming and using the same student ID. And we lived that way for about 3 months. So the online writing, while I was doing it, I was living with my sister in her hostel doing this, the pakanafanya with the matron. But I finally managed to get a call from an Indian farm in industrial area. Um, I didn't like the experience there. I joined that Indian farm in 2014, I think March. By the third day, I was feeling like this is not a place for me to be, and it's not what I had envisioned as an engineer. Getting out of engineering course for 5 years, and then someone calling me names when I'm working, I just felt like it was Madharau of the
Mm.
highest order, and I couldn't take
Mm.
it. So I worked
Yeah,
for about
before
three
you
months. Yeah.
before you proceed, so this is 3 days, and of course, word out here is that if you can avoid as much as possible working for Mahindi,
Mm-hmm.
you you're better off as an engineer.
Yeah.
So what's the bit, or rather from your experience, what
Mm-mm.
was the challenge? Was not the work, it was the administration of the work, or the challenge was everything, the work, the pay, and anything to do with
The
them
means.
was uh-huh.
Yeah. The biggest challenge wasn't the work. So the work wasn't engineering. The work was sales. But I always say this. Yes, it's good to have a goal and you really want to go into the engineering space. Um, and there are people who have that flexibility or the option. At this moment, what I was looking for is a job, something to buy me food and provide, pocket money for my sister because I'm living in her room so that we are sharing this. So I was really looking for something that can just give me some money. So even the sales position that I was doing, I was happy to do it. However, what I didn't like was the environment itself. First of all, you are supposed to go and do your duties, work duties, but you're expected to use it's like visiting the clients. When you're doing sales, you have to go and check on your clients, tell them about the new products that you have, something that can improve their incomes and what have you, everything about sales. But they were not providing the means for you to go. You're told to use your normal means, and at this point, I'm using a matatu, and you're expected to bring back a receipt so that they compensate your transport or your fare. How will Nairobi matatus? How do you get a receipt to do that? That means you are just using your money to go for this sales visit. Or the other thing would be then have poor performance and don't go because you're just seated on your desk and because you don't have that money. So what I would do is I would use my money and I would go at least to grow the sales, because what gives me motivation most is seeing me succeed. I like it when I've hit my targets, and so I had to use my money, but I tried to use smart ways because they had cars that were delivering items to clients. So I would hop into one of those pickups and just whenever they are going my route, then I tell them, okay, now you can drop me here. So I ended up using less money. But the other bit was just being treated as someone who doesn't deserve anything. At some point, my supervisor called me stupid, and it's not because I did a stupid thing, but it was just an insult that he just, throws here and there to anyone. I couldn't take it. So I told him, if I have to work here, then we have to work with respect, not being called names. And he told me if I want to go, I can go. He will simply get another graduate and pay them less than he's paying me.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Now that is the height of intolerance. And then what
I quit.
happened?
I just said I quit. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, I tried to be very professional. So I told him, well, if you want me to go and you want to get a person who can, a graduate that you'll pay cheaper, then I'd like us to call in the CEO. I'd like us to have a talk. Yeah, so he called in the CEO, and the CEO was very disappointed with the whole arrangement. Why my supervisor called me such names? Because the CEO looked learned person from abroad, and he wasn't treating people that way. But at least you need to check on your managers and see how they're treating people. So I also blame him for not checking on who these supervisors or what they were doing. So on that moment when we were sitting in that
Kid,
office, yes, I
kid.
quit and I left.
Okay, so I just wanted to know this guy who was calling you names.
Mm,
Was he a Muindi?
yes, he was.
Okay. And was he of okay, anyway, that is profiling a community. But
Yeah, we don't want to
again,
profile people because there are good ones that we've worked
mm,
with that are good, but
mhm.
I think there's something in the industrial area space that maybe they are not people from around for because what I was feeling like it's I was feeling like there are people brought in but not they haven't maybe stayed in Kenya for a long time. So they are treating you like maybe one of their slaves wherever they are, and they forget that we are human beings with an education, and what we have come here is to also because the attitude we have when you're fresh, you are very fresh and you're hardworking and you want to make a difference. You want to bring these new ideas, but no one is listening to you. So it's very frustrating when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They say wanaangalia ngozi. So
Yes.
that summarizes it. So let's proceed. 3 months, quit, no job.
Yes.
Um,
So in 3 months, I quit. There's no job. But then a miracle happens. I always call it a miracle because I didn't have a plan. I always advise people, the young people that I mentor or talk to, if they're frustrated with their jobs, I sit down with them and help them to come up with their plan Bs. So you plan and plan until you have your plan is imeivana, then you can resign. Not just quitting without any plans. So for me, I quit without any plans, and I was even shaking in that office. But then I went back to my sister's hostel and sat down and thought about my life. And that moment, I just did the online writing that I was doing. But then I stumbled upon a scholarship program that was announced on the JKUAT platform. So I saw it. I didn't give it too much thought, but then I received another email from one of my, I would call him one of my supervisors, but he was the chair of the department where I was studying at that time. And I get this email and he tells me, Keziah, there's this opportunity. It's called Metega. It's movement it's mobility to enhance training in engineering, something, something. I've forgotten, but it's Metega in full. So there's this Metega opportunity. They're looking for a number of students. They want one person they want four master students and they want, I think, 10 PhD students, if I'm not wrong. And these four master students are Kenyan because there are other nationalities that we met when we went to the various universities. So I took the email very seriously. I started the application process. But when I was applying, I was just applying for the sake of it. And this is one thing I will always tell people when you're applying, don't just apply for the sake of it. Please put in all your effort. So, luckily for me, I had this supervisor with me. He held my hand. He went through, he told me before you click submit, send me all your details, send me the CV, send me the essay later, let me see what you have written. So I sent it to him. I think he was just seeing this girl maybe has potential for this, but she's doing things roughly. So I sent it to him, and he's like, but where is your photo? There's a place where you're supposed to attach your passport photo. He's like, where's your photo? I'm like, I did not attach because I didn't go to the whatever. He's like, no, 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 no. Take a photo and send me right now. I like your essay. I like your CV. I like this and that. Please send me the photo. And then I check everything and confirm everything's fine. Then I can send you, and I want you to click submit right now because the deadline is tomorrow. I am part of the panel that is reviewing these things. And from all the things, all the applications I've received, yours is the best essay and the best CV so far. So I don't want you to miss on this opportunity just because you did not submit on time. Please, please, please. Even the people who are going to read this will like it. Please send it. Trust me, we took a photo with my sister's phone because me, I still had a kabambe at that time. And my sister had, I remember it very well, Samsung Pocket. Do you remember Samsung Pocket? A very
Uh-huh.
tiny phone. So my
Uh-huh.
sis was, the fancy University of Nairobi student. Yeah, she had a Samsung Pocket. We took a
Uh-huh.
photo with a Samsung Pocket in the hostels. We just sent it as it was, and I did the submission. Then within the same month, I received a call that I've been selected, and I wanted to do a short interview just to make sure that I'm the right candidate. And I passed it. It was just on phone. They wanted to quickly check some background check and see if you're the real person who did the application. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I passed and got this scholarship, and that quitting was in June, and I was supposed to be in Botswana to start my master's in agricultural engineering in August of the same year. So I had a plan now.
Interesting. But we
Yes.
can also say you are a perfect example of no people, eh?
No people.
Because-
No people.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that you should know people because now you are being served with prime and insider information. Why not for this
Exactly.
lecture of yours to
Yes.
tell you do this and do this? I mean, you would be suffering like other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
And
uh-huh.
there's something that people say, when what you mentioned, no people, there's something that people always say in Kenya, kuwa na connection. I think people have made it negative because of all the nepotism that happens. So people have made connection negative. But I always advocate for connection. You have to know someone. You have to know, even if it's the watchman or the cleaner, you have to know someone in the company that you're applying for a job for, in my opinion. There are those once in a while moments where you'll just apply anything and you get, but most of the time you will get better information from inside, things that will help you even pass or ace the interview. You'll get it from even a cleaner working in there. So for me, always
Mhm.
I work with connections.
Strategy,
Yeah.
strategy.
Yes.
Yeah, so interesting again to know that so ndio huyu wewe you are in Botswana masters. So you are doing masters out of necessity, not out of choice.
I was
Is that
doing masters out of necessity because I was being paid to study. So, and what you're being paid, you see,
Mm,
let me just be open and mention to people that I was earning. Sometimes when we are very desperate, you can take anything. And at the Muindi, I was earning a gross salary of 23,000 Kenyan shillings.
ooh,
And yeah, they were decent enough to have help and NHIF and NSSF and all those things.
mhm,
And I was getting a net of, was it 17,000? 17,000
mhm.
Kenyan shillings. In this 17,000, you need to take care of all those things, and you're
Okay.
still being treated badly. And then here comes a master's opportunity. At that time, we were being given 600 euros per month.
How
that
much?
was
How much is that? How much?
about 72 Kenyan shillings at that moment, at that time, because I just
Eh,
remember. Yeah, and they would give you a relocation amount. They would pay for you the airplane ticket. They would give you a good school. So the school that I was in had very nice hostels. You know, we were living like a suburban. Imagine from living in a hostel to my own room with a fridge and a microwave and everything. I was like, what? I'm in heaven. Someone is paying me and giving me all this to study. I'll
mhm,
take it anytime. Yeah, so
uh-huh.
I processed my documents, travel documents, you know, the yellow fever, the whatever, very fast with the help of my uncle. He really came in handy, like my father, and helped me apply all those things in time, and I was ready for Botswana. Yes, out
Mm.
of necessity. I really needed that money.
I mean, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of
A
money.
lot. Yeah, it was a lot of money.
Yeah. So you went for masters.
Yeah.
And yeah, how was it?
My experience in my master's course, it was a 2 year grant, and I had to finish my master's in 2 years. Um, if I was taken back today, I think
Mm.
I would want to explore more. What I always say is I didn't explore as much. I was too careful. I should have explored more. If I was taken back, I would explore more than I did. But the experience itself was very, very, very mixed. There was good and there was also not so good. So for the good part is the school that we went to had how do I call it? It had all the things that you need as a student. It had a good library, had good labs. You had access to lecturers. Some of them, as an international student, you had access to lecturers, of course. Okay, we were only two in class. It was me and a Ugandan guy, and then there were some classes that some Botswana or local students would join us. But the main international students in our class were just me and a Ugandan student. So as two students, all our lecturers were ready there for us. You know, they imagine that we have this homesickness and they want to treat us nicely. They would invite us to their homes to have dinner with their families, lunch, you know, just experience the Botswana culture with them. So that experience culturally, it was very good. And then the fact that it was sponsored nicely, it meant that you are not struggling financially. So you're able to afford one, two, three things that you need that can make your life easier. And then in terms of the library, the system was just better. I felt like everything was facilitating my master's degree to go well. The parts that I didn't like were moments when I would feel homesick, and then you only had one return ticket. Sorry, you only had a ticket to go and a ticket to come back. So it means in between, if you wanted to come back home, you had to foot that bill yourself. And being away from family for 2 years is quite a long time. So
Yeah.
I felt it was a bit harsh in terms of just being away from everyone. You're alone in a faraway land. They didn't have nice internet the way I'm used to in Nairobi. You click something, and if it's loading, you're already frustrated. But there, even just downloading a WhatsApp image, you'd had to, load for a long time. So, not having internet was very frustrating for me. And lastly, there was a lot of silent xenophobia. So in South Africa, the xenophobia was very loud, and people are open about it, and people are being killed, and you would hear it in the news and see it everywhere. But in Botswana, it is silent. So you will hear people calling you mukwere kwere when you get into a matatu there, or when you're walking and someone talks to you and you don't understand their language because they're expecting you're black like them, we look like them. Why are you not understanding what I'm saying? So they already know
Mm-hmm.
you're foreign. So you are treated a bit different. In Kenya, I've noticed that we are very warm and welcoming. I've seen that with new people coming in. Even when they go, they say we are warm and welcoming. I didn't quite get that except from my fellow Kenyans. So what I did is to look for fellow Kenyans who are there, and we used to have our own meetups. We used to have what we call Chapo Fests. Every Saturday we would do some Chapo Fest, meet Kenyan students in one room somewhere. We make chapatis and really enjoy ourselves. Thank God I did such things because that's how I met my husband.
Whoa.
So in terms of exploring, maybe I explored a little bit there.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting, interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
So yes, the
So
experience was very good generally.
yeah, yeah. So from the village to Botswana to doing good things. So let's move on now to. I mean, this is 46 minutes into the conversation, and we have not touched your professional work. Ah,
We can
yeah.
have a part
So
two.
exactly. So now you're done with your masters. You are back in the country. I'm assuming that of course no opportunity. 72,000 is not there. How did you approach? What? Okay, what was your strategy after the masters?
Let me just say, I was hit by shock. I don't know. When you go to a different country, they call it cultural shock. But when you come back to your home, I don't know how to call it. But
Mm-hmm.
I was hit by shock. I am a firstborn, and I have been fortunate or unfortunate enough to carry the load of black tax in my family. So I must say that all the money that I was getting, I was using a percentage of it, and the other percentage was to sort things at home. You have to help parents take your younger siblings to college. You have to help parents, I don't know, money for what, money for that. So by the time I was coming back, honestly speaking, that I didn't have anything to myself except for the ticket and maybe a few thousand shillings just to get me by. So the shock that I had was, okay, I'm used to a certain kind of lifestyle, living in a nice place, um, shopping all the time in the malls and everything. And now I'm getting back to reality and I
Uh-huh.
didn't even have a place. So again, I go back to my sister. Now at this moment, she has also graduated, and she now has her own place. I remember it was a one-bedroom place, and I had to sit at her place. Then at the same time, I also had a very bad shock, and this more in my private life. It was my mom. I just found out that when I was coming I came back in August 2016. I was coming to celebrate them because they were renewing their vows, my mom and dad. But then that same 2016 August, found out that she had cancer and it was very
Oh.
advanced, and I had a very short time with her before she passed on. So for me, that was very, very
Mm.
shocking. I didn't even have the energy to look for work. But fortunately, just before I left Botswana, I had made an application to Davis and Shatliff. So that was where I got my first job. Here, just like there's just like I mentioned, connections and networks. So what
Mm-hmm.
happened is I knew someone who worked in Davis and he was a manager at that time. So I just wanted to find out more about Davis. I called him up. He also knew my husband, fiance at that time. So we spoke
Uh-huh.
and we spoke, the three of us, and I just wanted to know what happens in Davis, how the application goes. You see, if you don't know someone, you'll just do the normal online application and stop at that. But because I knew this person, I looked for him and sat him down and told him, look, I have just come back. I have a master's degree. I have this and that. I want to know, how do I get into Davis and Shartley? So he gave us the process,
Mm-hmm.
and something worked for me, that in Davis, they always ask the employees. We have sent out a new link for interns to apply. Do you know anyone who wants to apply? We can give them a chance before we check the online one. So what happens in Davis is they will look at what recommendations the employees have brought. So you see, well, because I spoke to this guy, he told me, give me your CV. Then I gave him my
Yeah.
CV and he sent it out to HR. Of course, HR called me and asked me for an interview. Just like everyone else, we were maybe 20, we were so many applying for that internship position. And six of us got it. We passed the interview and we started work. I was so humbled because I have a
Mm.
master's degree, but I was started as an intern like everyone else, fresh from campus. Anyway, I was just glad that I got something.
Eh,
It was a decent working environment. It's one of the places I always say I thank God for employers like that who take you with zero experience and they train you, but they also respect you. So the pay wasn't very good. It was something less than, of course, what I was getting in Botswana in my master's. But
mm-hmm.
if for me, it was more of the experience. At that moment, or in that period, you were supposed to be an intern for 6 months, and then after 6 months, you're confirmed. So for me, I was like, I'm just tolerating the 6 months of less pay. But I know after the 6 months, if I've done my job right, actually, it was 99% of the time you would get confirmed, unless you've done a very big, big mistake. So I got transitioned into a permanent employee after 6 months.
Nice, nice,
Mm.
nice. So the denominator of this conversation is you should be able to know people. Jua watu. Mwana, find ways.
Network.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, you have to network. You have to have what I normally call it a sounding board. You must
Mm.
have people who can speak and mention your name in places where you're not there. People who can say, "Yeah, I know that guy. He really works very well. Yeah, let's take him." Otherwise, if you don't know anything and no one knows what you're doing, no one knows where you are, then it's not the best way to approach things, but you have to also put in effort to know people. You have to
Yeah.
really network. Yeah, you don't just wake up and know people.
Interesting, interesting. I mean, that
Yeah.
is those are wise words
Mm.
that should be preached even as for us Mhandese, should even be used as our tagline, because one of the things again that we are seeing even in the conversations that conversation spaces that I am in for the graduate engineers is that there's a difficulty in those of us who were in school and passed quite well, but are unable to transition into the industry, unable to get
Yes.
placements. And there's something that comes up with that, and we call it kiburi. Understand?
Yes.
For
Yes.
example, sasa you now who has done a master's and it was paid very well in Botswana,
Yeah.
you are coming here and this company does not recognize that you have a master's, so you
No.
are an equivalent. I mean, your qualification is taken as to be equivalent to this guy who has just
Yes.
graduated from school like a few months
Yeah.
ago. So your
Yeah.
2 years, your 3 years, your 4 years does not count. How did you handle that situation? How did you go about, like, okay, let me accept this strategy?
Now you see,
Mm.
the thing about work is that it's not a school where people are graded according to, in school it's very easy to know who's the top, who's the last, because there's a grading system. And this grading system, I don't know if it's the best, but it always makes people put themselves either I'm the top or I'm the last, and that's how you gain even your respect, because we used to have students who are getting straight A's, and then there are those who are really struggling, and those who are like, let me just sit next to you today, please, because I don't know anything to write in this paper. And at work, there's no such thing. At work, you're given deliverables and you're supposed to deliver. So, whether you have 4 years experience, whether you have a master's degree, whether you have a PhD, or whether you're zero experience, can you give us, can you deliver? Can you give us what we have asked you for? So when you get to the workspace, you quickly learn that. For me, I quickly learned that it's not my experience here that matters. There are people who joined when the company wasn't really looking for graduates. There are people who just joined as technicians, and now they're big people, they're managers, and they're making it. And there are those graduates who have really joined, and they are performing very well. You can actually look up to them. So I quickly learned that it's not about my experience, but what attitude am I coming with to work? Can I quickly learn and actually use my skills that I've learned as a master's person to outdo even maybe the fresh graduates? So I quickly pick that up. And sometimes you realize, yeah, because I have a master's, I know how to handle customers better than these fresh graduates who might write a simple email. For me, I've done back and forth emails with my supervisors and researchers, and now I can do it in a better way and package it in a better way, and then you quickly get up the ladder. But I didn't take it badly. I was just a bit disappointed that my master's did not count. But with time, you just see how it helps you get faster into the spaces.
Oh, okay, okay. Interesting again to know that you're able to humble yourself and
Mm.
again fight from, let me call it fight from within in quotes, for the
Yeah.
reason that you used your masters and your experience, and then now it helped you catapulted you to the next step.
Yeah.
So Keziah is an employee of Davis and Shatliff.
Mm-hmm.
How was the experience there? Were you now? You see now you were trained as an agricultural engineer.
Yes. I was
Davis and
waiting for
Shatliff.
that question.
Davis, uh,
Yeah.
Davis and Shatliff. And okay, my understanding is they're selling things to do with pumps, and
Yeah.
they say no water through experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how was the switch for you? Now you agriculture, and then now this is we can actually argue that this is typically not agricultural as we expect in the um
Yeah.
local.
And as much as you are dealing with, and the pumps have, so Davis and Shatliff does water and energy solutions. Yeah. So in the water space, they have water treatment, they have swimming pools, and then they have pumps. And then in the energy space, they have solar and they also do generators. So in the water direction, so the pumps have a very big, swimming pools is direct, it's just swimming pools, and then water treatment is also direct, it's just water treatment. But for pumps have a very wide application. So you'll find that there are even agricultural applications, but pumps just generally transfer water from one place to another. So they have a very wide application. So my sweetest spot usually was the irrigation department. I really liked it because I had the idea about irrigation and the pumps, and they would do very nice in sizing what pumps are needed, what kind of irrigation equipment is needed. Unfortunately, in Davis and Shatliff, you didn't have the liberty to choose which department you want to go to. So as an intern, first, you will start maybe in the retail space, but they will also check which branch within Kenya needs someone to be placed. So if Lodwa branch doesn't have people, they'll throw the interns there. So I didn't have a choice really to say I want to go in the irrigation department or in the energy space that I want to go to solar. So I was placed, and for me, luckily, I was placed in the Westlands branch. So in the Westlands branch, you let me just say, in any branch in Davis and Shartley, the branches act just the way the headquarters acts. So you are a full team on your own. You have to do your own accounting. You guys, you have to do your own admin. You guys have to do your own inventory and the sales part. So you learn a lot on the job. You learn a lot of things. It's a fast-paced environment. You have clients, very irritated Wazungu clients, and you also have the internal things to take care of. So you quickly learn how to balance those things. But what happened when I was doing my master's in Botswana, my lecturer there was one of the units called solar utilization. So that lecturer took his time and took us to the grids that was there, the one that they used, the main one in Botswana. Then he also took us to families that had solar water pumping. So I was very fascinated with solar water pumping. And when I came to Davis, that was something that was being done. Things that I was learning in class for my master's were happening in qua ground. Eh? Things were happening the same exact way qua ground, and I was so happy to incorporate that. So anytime a client came and they wanted to do a borehole, I would quickly tell them, okay, yes, you have a borehole, but can we try powering it with solar? And I would do sizing for them quickly, and I really enjoyed doing solar water pumping. And it was also the most economical way of pumping. So my experience there was very, very good. I applied so many things that I learned in class, especially in the solar utilization class. My project in masters was also on solar water pumping. I was using Arduino to automate some processes, but trust me, don't ask me anything about Arduino. I can't even remember what I was doing. But yeah, it came out. I have my thesis. Maybe I can revise it and know what I was doing. But yes, I applied a
Uh,
lot of that. And I also learned very many new things that I didn't know. That is, I always consider that as my first employer, not the other Indian place that I was with. I always consider Davis as my first employer because that's where I learned the real things that are happening and giving a client solutions in a very respectable way, in a supportive environment, and all those things.
I do not agree with you when you discard the Muhindi as you are doing. He, he's a step. He's a step actually, and for me,
Yeah.
I think that feedback in either direction is
Mm,
important. It could be
mm.
negative feedback. It could be positive feedback.
Yeah,
But
true.
yeah, their bit in your story still
Yes,
stands.
yes, it's
Um,
true.
yeah. So now, so you were in David just shortly for how many years?
I was in Davis and Shadley for about 3 years. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
my time there was from 2016 October all the way to 2019 December. So 3 years.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
you transitioned. You were sizing pumps from irrigation.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you moved the ladder, and there were some positions you picked up along the way in the 3 years.
No, no. What happened with Davis and Shatliff, I didn't manage to transition to another position. So after there are many years that you're supposed to, it's the traditional way of transitioning where when you join, you wait for the older people who've been there for 5 years, 6 years to get those top positions first. And then when you get to your 6 years, you also get the top position. So there's something they say about millennials. I don't know if I accept or I don't, but I don't think I was going to wait for 6 years before I moved to the next position. And the reason is I think I had potential to do other things that in the current position that I was in, and for those 3 years, I wasn't able to pursue. And maybe I can just move to how I transitioned to the next place. Is I got in the 3 years, I found myself with a very big passion for solar. But because of how it's structured, I couldn't just say I want to move to the solar department and hone my skills in solar. So I was here. I have my passion for solar, but I'm still selling pumps. I'm still doing swimming pools. I'm still doing water treatment. I'm still doing, because when a client walks in, you give the solution that the client wants. If they want irrigation, then I'm happy I'm doing irrigation. If they want solar pumping, I'm happy I'm doing that. But I also still have to do the pumps. I also have to do the water treatment and the like. So for me, I quickly realized that for me to pursue my passion for solar, I have to move into a different environment that will help that grow. And that's how I transitioned from Davis and Shortleaf and got myself into the CNI, or commercial and industrial solar, with Ecoligo Limited.
Oh, I was thinking you mentioned power gen, but anyway. So
I moved to Ecoligo fast.
yeah, so I just wanted to mention again that what is also important there is to say, probably in that position that you are,
Yes.
um, one way of knowing that you needed to grow was whether you are allowed to practice what you wanted to practice. And
Yeah.
probably another way to look at it is the company was underutilizing your resource. See,
Yes.
now you are a master student. You are not doing things. You cannot do things like continuously do things like a graduate student.
Yes.
No, no.
Yeah.
And,
So
and
I
and
felt, yeah, I felt underutilized. Exactly. That was the word, exact word.
yeah, and yeah, good news that you're able to transition, and now you are giving better value to the world. So umesema inaitwa Ecoligo.
Ecoligo Limited, yes. Them, they
Uh-huh.
do solar financing, and this is a thing that I really wasn't expecting. For me, when I moved from Davis to Ecoligo, I was just going to do solar. That was my passion, you know. I just wanted to do solar in a bigger scale, because what I was doing was more residential, you know, those one, two, three
Two, three
customers
customers.
and requesting for quotations for solar. So now I'm in a position to do for commercial and industrial clients. And when I go in, I find that they are not just doing the solar commercial industrial, only the technical bit, but they also have the financing. So they would bring in the finances. They use a crowd investment platform you can check out on their website, where they get funding from people. Private investors want to invest in renewable energy, then they use these funds to pay technical companies. Now, some of the technical companies we used to work with to implement the projects, and then the client pays them on a monthly basis. So it was a very good way for me to learn other things. Other than just the technical bits, I also learned the financing bits of the projects. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. I didn't know there was. So is it like Eco? What did you? The name of the company is Ecoligo or Eco? What
E
did you
C
say it was?
O
Mm.
Ligo. It's a German company.
Oh, I was thinking it's legal, like Sharia
Legal,
legal.
like no, Ligo. I think they just brought two things together. Eco and Ligo. I think they have a meaning. Trust me, I knew them when I was working for them, but for now I've
Oh,
forgotten a little bit. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
nothing to do with the environment and financing and enabling. Yeah, yeah.
interesting. And did you have did you know people before you transitioned? Ama, what was the miracle here?
The miracle here. The miracle was, it wasn't really a miracle. So what happened is, I someone from another group who had gone to Ghana. I think they had gone to, you know, this Rest for Africa program. There's a Rest for Africa where people come together and then they are given some training and they might go to Italy and what have you. I think it was open. It's called Power Africa, Open Africa Power, something like that. So in their group, uh, a friend of mine actually. So in the group, someone posts that sales associates are needed in Kenya for this company called Ecoligo. It's a fancy company. It's an upcoming company. You know, it's a startup with cool things. They're doing financing for solar. So she sends the link and asks me, would you be interested in this? Then I just brush it off. And then my husband, who's also in the same group, because he also went to that program, gets the same link and sends to me. It's like, they're looking for sales associates who are doing solar, commercial, and industrial space. And I've heard you mentioning that you want to do solar fully. Is this something you'll be interested in? And let me tell you, it's good to have a partner who really pushes you to the limit. He pushed me until I applied for that position. So I applied, and this, I must say, it was his force just pushing me to apply for what I've been talking about. He's like, you've been saying you want to go solar, then this is the opportunity. Apply for it and see. So I applied, and this one, honestly speaking, the network wasn't with inside, like knowing someone inside. The network was getting the opportunity to me. So I wouldn't have known about this opportunity if I didn't know everyone else that is in that group. So once I applied, there was a very tough interview where you had to do a video and present and pitch to investors and say why would investors invest in this company. But I passed that video interview. You had to record yourself and do maybe on YouTube or something and send it to the to the manager. And once I passed, what I can say is I really did prepare really well for the interview. It was one of the seriousest interviews I've had, and I had to speak to the CEO for the last interview. So you can imagine how prepared I was. I really did my research on them, and I managed to get in.
Now that you did a lot of work and you have earned this position, how did you ask for your compensation?
My compensation, I
Mm-hmm.
always check what is the market rate for that exact position. And I'm confident enough to start with even what people are being paid in the US. I usually think I deserve that. And I don't need to say I'm putting in the Kenyan market rate. No, I check I
That
check the market rate, global market rate for that position, and that is the amount that I normally quote. It is the employers now who negotiate and we reach an agreement. But I'm usually satisfied with an agreement that I get. So for me, I did the research on how much is a sales associate paid even in US, and you there are so many platforms online that you can use to check that. Then that is the amount that I ask for. I also normally look at what is it that I want that will make me comfortable, not to start thinking of moving in 1 month. You know, you can be somewhere and then you realize, hey, you asked for 200,000 and people are earning
mm,
500,000. Then you start regretting. So what I
uh,
normally do is,
mm,
if I can find a contact inside the company, I normally use LinkedIn most of the time. I send someone a connection request and then I chat them in their inbox nicely, professionally, and find out a lot more information. And I don't go straight to how much this position will earn. I first create that network that I'm talking about. You have to create it weeks before, and then I will bring in that in a nice way and I make sure that I know what's the budget set for this position and what can I ask for. Then I ask for it.
let me clap again. Your ancestors must be very proud of you. This is really, hey,
Yeah.
this is interesting, man. I've never heard of that. So
Yeah.
to you, you are global,
Yeah,
and and
global.
and and for the graduate engineers listening, this is how to look at now our profession. You realize again that the board signed has been initiated into the Washington Accord. And the
Yeah.
idea is to have professional engineers be mobile, or rather be able to move I mean, sell their labor within the world. And
Yeah.
one of the things again that we've done in our past episode is to go through the engineers rules, and we have some guidelines actually on how to do, or rather what to ask on the matters of compensation. But it is this approach is, I like it. This is very interesting. This is good. And
Yeah.
yeah, I know you can move. Okay, so Saizi, where do you work? Because this is 1 hour 15 minutes.
Okay. Uh, Now I'm 2 years into Ecoligo, and
Mm,
then I keep getting a request on LinkedIn on my inbox from various recruiters. I think there's a time that a friend of mine, they're very good in personal branding, and they just told me you have to revamp your LinkedIn. I think it's time, it's due for another revamp, I think. So they told me you have to revamp your LinkedIn, and it has to speak for the things that you want to do, that the spaces that you want to be in. So I did that, and within no short time, I had so many recruiters on my inbox reaching out. We have this solar company, they want to do this. And then I check out the solar company and feel, no, this is not meeting my requirements or meeting what I'm looking for. Then I brush it off. Then there was this position in PowerGen where I currently work. And it had been, I think, on the LinkedIn spaces for almost a year, if I'm not wrong. And I kept seeing it and sending it to some of my friends who I thought would make very good candidates for that position. It was business development manager for the commercial and industrial solar departments that is quite new at the Pageant, because Pageant has been known for doing mini grids and, let me say, power grids for the past maybe many years since it started. Actually, that was uh, their footprint. But then they started the commercial industrial space, and they were looking for a business development manager because the person who was heading it was leaving the country at that time. So I've been pushing this position to my friends for almost a year now. I'm like, what is it about this position that people are not filling it up? So again, I take my phone and call someone in Pageant, and I ask them, hey, what's happening? What is this business development position? I have received it from like 5 recruiters now, and I have been sending it to my friends, and I don't think they have successfully applied for it. What are they looking for? What do they want? What is it about? And this person was a senior person, and so he told me everything. And he said, in fact, I'm the one who's recruiting. So why don't you send the CV? Sorry for the changes in lights. Yeah. So why don't you send the CV? But remember again, I also had someone who was still pushing me. My husband, as usual, he was pushing me to apply for it
mm-hmm,
because I kept sending it to friends, and he's like, "Why don't you send it yourself and just try it out?" So after I called him and he told me, "Send your CV," I send my CV, and he sent it directly to the people's operations. I think I received an email from our people's operations. They don't call them HR here. But
mm-hmm,
yeah, I received an email that, yeah, we've received your CV and we would like you to move to the next step. The next step is we have an assignment, and they send me the assignment and gave me the deadline on when I'm supposed to send the assignment. So the assignment was quite tough. For me, it was very technical. I was used to sales. I was doing sales from the Indian farm. I did sales in the Davis and Shatleaf. I did sales in Ecoligo. So now I'm here. I've been sent a very technical assignment. I have to use PV Syst. I have to use Helioscope to do PV layouts. I have to do sizing. But fortunately, there was also a business a development kind of question where they were asking you for strategy, what kind of strategies you'll use to get into the market and such like thing, market sizing, market analysis. And those are things that I had done before, especially when I was at Ecoligo. So I asked this one question, and then this other question. When I joined the company, I asked people how I did it, and they told me the review was written when they were reviewing. They said needs technical assistance.
So that is the corporate way
Anyway,
of saying there's a skill gap here.
there's a skill gap. Yeah, so there was a skill gap. Fortunately, for the position that I am in as a business development manager, my technical skills are not that is not exactly what helps me to get my KPIs done. I need to have a technical background because the product that I'm selling is technical. You're speaking to people and you're trying to convince them why they should go solar, why they should choose this specific component, not this other one. So you have to have a technical background. You have to understand your product. And I really thank God that I did an engineering course because that now gave me the background to understand what's happening in here. But I love the twist that I brought in the business mindset. In fact, if I'm given an opportunity right now to do any course, I would do something in finance because I've come to learn that is something that I really enjoy, and specifically in project finance, not the corporate finance and accounting and taxing. No, the project finance bit. Because even in our company, PowerGen, right now, we have now started financing our own projects. We are moving from just doing EPC work where we do the technical implementation and construction bit, but we are now financing our own projects. So for me, having the finance background that I had from Ecoligo, the financing project, has really helped me in my day-to-day interaction with clients when I'm presenting to them proposals for financing this technical option I'm giving them. So yes, that was my transition now from Ecoligo to PowerGen.
Amen, amen. The Muhindi who is listening to this should be proud of the seed that he or she planted that is able to
Yes.
flourish as you are
Yeah.
doing right now. And yeah, because yeah, we can go on and on. We cannot finish. This is an African conversation.
Yeah.
This is a real Muhandisi. So now we have transitioned from an agricultural trainee engineer to now being a project development finance person, which is the transition is quite interesting. So, in summary, what are the 3 points that you would say are really helpful for you as I mean, where you are right now, as far as your engineering training is concerned?
3 points that are really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Wow. I would say engineering has given me the technical know-how that is required in the space. I think it's very easy to train for other skills. All the finance that I know, I've never been in a class. I've learned them, and okay, maybe I've been in some few personal classes that I've chosen online or something I've paid for here and there, or a master class that I've joined. But I don't think I can have the same kind of, picking things here and there in the engineering space or in the engineering that I did. So giving me that technical background, that's number one. That's something that I really like about engineering. So if you're going to be in a field that has technical aspects, I think it's best to have an engineering degree first. Then these other skills, you can learn them on the job or you can learn them as you move because it's very easy to learn the other skills. Not as easy, not like engineering. Engineering is really something. That's the first thing. The second thing is engineering has has given me an opportunity to impact people's lives. In all the jobs that I've done, I was interacting with clients directly, and I used to love when I see in their eyes that I have given a solution to the problem that they had. Most of the time, most clients just come with an imagination, and then we put it into action. So just seeing that transition, a client coming with a problem, they have no idea what it is about, but then some of them even up to date, some don't even believe that solar can do industrial and commercial powering. And when they see that it's done, and it's now even made possible with our financing, then for me, that impact that it creates on them is really fulfilling. So engineering has given me an opportunity to experience a fulfillment that I always want and yearn for, and it's something that keeps me going, that fulfillment. Without that engineering, I don't think I'd be giving those solutions. So thanks to engineering. And then lastly, I think engineering is one of the, in my experience, one of the well paid professions. I don't know if someone has different opinion or the way you're laughing. I'm not sure if you have a different opinion. But in the beginning, you might not start very well. But I think as you move up the ladder, as you get more experience, as you learn how to get these things and ask for the things that you deserve, engineering is one of those professionals that will give you a decent life in terms of how much you're earning and the lifestyle that you can get out of that. So those are the things that I would say engineering has given me. But aside from that, I would add it has given me the some patience. It has given me focus. Well, because sometimes you can start a project and it's taking forever to to get finished and just get to the end. And you need that patience and you need all that focus and you need to be really determined to get to the end so that you see the final product that comes out of it. Yeah, it has given me happiness. I think I enjoy what I do. I really love what I do. Yeah.
And there goes the conversation. A great conversation over time, but what do we say? For those of us listening to us, this has been Handesi, this has been Newton, and of course, we've been listening to the story of Keziah. Probably last words, Keziah, that you might mention to the audience.
Two words. Your audience is mostly engineers who just graduated, right? Yeah, for me, I would say get a mentor. I really believe in mentorship. Get a mentor because they link you to things that you would not do or you wouldn't know, especially if you're just fresh from school. So when you have a mentor, you're able to tap into spaces that your little experience wouldn't get you there. Newton, you'll agree with me that after several years of experience, now you know more people, you know many things in the industry. And if you're holding a graduate who has just finished campus and they're joining the workspace, you have a lot to tell them, you have a lot to teach them. So they can learn and get experience from mentors. That's the first thing. The second thing is please, please, please be very assertive. I don't want to say aggressive, but be very assertive in everything that you do, especially if I'm speaking to the people who are looking for work or space in the engineering. You've just finished as an engineering graduate and you're looking for work. Be very assertive. And what I mean is, don't just throw an application here and there and feel like you've done the most. No, don't just do don't just do your best. Do everything that it takes to get where you want to get. So be very assertive if you want to work for PowerGen, for example, why don't you connect with me and Newton, find out what PowerGen does, what can you do even for free, how will you understand, just learn something, be very assertive and until you get what you need, what you want or what you aspire to get. So those two things, get a mentor and be very assertive.
Amen, Keziah. That is it for today.
Thank you, Newton. Thank you for having me.
Karibu.